been using YouTube and creating content on YouTube for some time.
Yep.
Years, in fact. And you're a GP partner in an NHS practice in the Northeast, and you've been doing that for years as well.
Yep.
So you have a YouTube channel for your practice.
Yep.
Okay. How long have you had your channel for?
So we've had the medical practice channel now for 4 years, with the first video being done back in September 21. So sort of like, coming up to 4 years now.
What do you think is the benefit of having a YouTube channel in your practice?
I found it that we were getting, as a partner, you sort of deal with obviously business problems and sort of issues with it from that way. And you're thinking, well, hang on a second, how can we deal with this without bringing the patient in, how can we educate the patient without sending out a leaflet, letters, trying to do something a bit different, a bit more efficient. And actually YouTube seemed to be a potential way of doing it. So we sort of started to experiment with it in terms of what type of content would work, what wouldn't work, and just moving into that area of like, can we improve patients' lives without bringing them in, educating them? Actually, you can watch it on your phone at night. And then what's brilliant as well is that a lot of the supporting technology for general practice, so we've got AccuRx, which is a messaging service which you can then text a patient directly, and there's responses that you can get back. And we've been basically not just using the videos, but using the videos and a messaging service to almost like combine the two together to improve a patient experience. Fingers crossed. And that's the experiment.
Yeah. So and it taps into the idea, right? People consume content visually.
Yes.
Far more effectively than they do. We know that if you send an email or a text message, it doesn't always land. You can send a letter and it can get put straight in the bin. So the reality is that people consume content just generally through videos. So if you can send them a link through a text message, you've got more chance of actually engaging that patient in whatever it is that you're trying to engage them with.
No. And it goes with where are the patients getting their information at the moment. So they're getting them from newspapers, predominantly though online, social media, etc. And you're like, what is the quality of evidence that they're getting? And it's generally poor. Or generally you're thinking like, well, can I trust that? And don't get me wrong, I've had some people come in saying like, I had one classically young girl who'd said, I've watched someone on TikTok say about moles, and she demonstrated mole changes, and it was correct. Like the information that she presented and the reason why she presented to me was completely correct. And then I just thought to myself, hang on a second, why are you listening to some 22-year-old who has done, a GCSE in biology, who's then had the wherewithal to put a video on TikTok, and credit to them. But hang on a second, it should be a doctor doing it, or a medical professional. Someone who's a bit more credible to put it on.
Well, not only that, but it's a great way of being able to get a named GP in front of the patient.
Absolutely, yeah.
Without, removing that blockage of having to book an appointment and things. And patients are often saying they can't see their GP, or they don't see the same GP, or they don't even know who their named GP partner is in their practice. That comes up an awful lot. The other example that I think we've spoken about before was when the Strep A outbreak happened a couple of years ago, and tell me, I mean, we all worked through that, and it was like
it was horrible. Yeah,
things
really,
hit the media, mainstream media, and then suddenly the next day, every person was worried that their child had Group A strep, quite reasonably.
Yeah, absolutely.
The amount of coverage. So what did you do?
So for a start, I'd already established the channel at that. What was great was that it was one of our lead receptionists said, like, Dave, you need to give us some help on this one, because they were getting phone call after phone call after phone call. And what the media does, and I don't blame them because they've got to make a living, but they were winding people up in terms of, you worried about this. So every sore throat was suddenly needing a doctor's appointment and, or needing a clinician to have review them. And so basically what we did was like, right, we'll do a short video explaining, for a start, fever pain. So a scoring tool of, do you need antibiotics for your sore throat? So it covers that, ticks that box. The second part of, what does the infection look like? Such as, what does strawberry tongue look like? What does, a sandpaper rash look like? And got some pictures off, which you can get off the NHS website. It was all linked to the NHS information, so I wasn't going rogue in terms of the information I was giving. And then finally did a little bit about the early signs of sepsis. And then so your severe red flags are covered from that point. And then you've got that all referenced there. And then the video is one step. The next step, though, is how you implement it. So what the reception staff were able to do with AccuRx was being like, we set a little template up saying, instead of the process being they phone up, they get a doctor's appointment, it would be they phone up, receptionists go, I get that, watch this video, link up, and they could do it whilst they are tapping. And I've done it myself, you can often hear, if they're on the mobile phone, it buzzing when you've sent the link through. Go and watch this video. If you feel that you meet the criteria which Dr. Hindmarsh explains in the video, please call us back and we'll fit you in. Done. Yeah. And so it just gives that level of reassurance. And then because we, as a practice, are engaged with social media, we're on Facebook, we try and keep up to date with that, or certainly our digital and transformation lead is great at regularly posting on that. That we posted it on that as well. And then one of the local teachers picked it up and said, can I share this with all the parents who are understandably worried and concerned? I was like, I don't want to swear on the channel, but like, absolutely, sort of like, just, yes, like, this is what it is. Because we're almost in a combat situation against media, because they're trying to wind people up, but what they don't see the back end of is the impact of
all the worried appointments that you've got.
For like, I've seen another sore throat that's fever pain of 0 or 1, and it just ruins, it just churns the system up, and you're like, thank you for that. So that was it. Just, and like with any, as a senior member of or a leadership role in any team, even if it didn't detract the appointment numbers, let's say it didn't have any effect at all, at least the team felt listened to. And it's that I think, and so my team leader or the reception team leader was turned around and said, like, thank you very much for that, Dave, at least I've got something to go with. It's just like,
I mean, no doubt you'll have. I mean, of course, you can't go back and audit it in real time, but I'd imagine that there was definitely a certain number of patients who didn't call back after seeing the video.
Absolutely.
And felt reassured and could give their child some Calpol and, X, Y, Z.
And actually manage it appropriately.
Yeah. And there's probably a load of people who didn't also present to their pharmacist with the same question.
Yes.
Well. So you've really kind of made a big difference and impact in your local community just from the back of essentially one video. I was just going to ask, obviously you're somebody who has some experience in making videos and doing a bit of editing and then seeing the problem and being able to turn that around probably quite quickly. Actually, you probably turned that around relatively swiftly for your practice in that example. There are other examples that you don't need the time scale, of course. What would be your sort of? Obviously, you've been doing this for a while now.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you find the time? How long does it take you to actually think of doing a topic and then recording the video? I mean, the video probably doesn't take as long to do time-wise because it's going to be a restricted amount. But what's the sort of time commitment here? Because that's the thing we all have less of as clinicians.
Absolutely, and that's the bit that really kills it in a way, and why I kick myself that I haven't been able to do more. Because if you break down the process of, you've got idea generation, scripting, filming, and then you've got after the filming, you've got to edit it, do any thumbnails, promote it as well on your social media bit. And whilst it's my own passion project, I was doing all of that. So probably per video, probably conservative estimates were taking me 2-3 hours with all of that time frame. So, with a 10-minute video, this scripting to make sure you've got everything. The benefit is because I'm doing it on stuff that we can talk about, you know, you could say pretty much to any well-trained doctor, you know, could you write me a video on sore throats? And it's like, well, yeah, I'm going to cover this, and it's done within 10, 20 minutes. You probably do it off the cuff quite happily. The killer is the editing and sort of putting that all together. So actually, and that's probably people's biggest barrier in terms of why don't more people do it. To make a reasonable video is one thing, but then to actually edit it and make it watchable is the next step. I mean, interestingly enough, I've had this, that the bar is actually lower because there is this sort of concept, and what I'm cautious of is that I don't want my patients to turn around and say like, oh, you're just busy filming all the time and not seeing patients. So actually, because of that, you can drop the quality a bit. It doesn't have to be very, very professional. So all of my filming's done on my phone. Like I don't have fancy film equipment. You know, it's done on, you know, I've spent a bit on the microphone. I've got an iPhone. I think admittedly I'm on, at the time, the majority of them was done on a 12 or a 13, that sort of level. It doesn't have to be high quality. If not, my webcam that's already on my computer and a ring light, which cost 20 quid off Asda. That sort of, so low cost. But the cost in time is at the back end in terms of editing and getting it all looking nice enough from that perspective. So,
and when you're a busy clinician doing your busy day job, that's the you can have a channel for years as you have, and it takes time to drip into that channel these different videos and everything else. So I think it's great. I mean, we've talked about this in terms of how can we improve that process.
Absolutely.
For your practice, and this is something you're now going to do, isn't it? This
Yes.
is something you're now going to take forward and be like, let's do it. So what are you going to do? Because obviously we know this works. So how are you going to make it better?
And this is sort of like it's. So actually, it was thanks to doc support. Obviously, with, you know, as we were teaming up and joining forces, you brought your virtual assistant Kaylee on board, who has taken a lot of the editing, all of the editing, really off us in terms of video content creation. So which has meant that actually we've managed to go from one video a week to 2 videos a week, and it's not been too onerous. Actually, I was doing some editing last night and actually found myself enjoying it. So it's like, it was like, good heavens. Anyway, it's like, whoa. So actually, it was then pitching to Kaylee and saying like, you know, what would it take for, you know, we've got an okay channel at the moment, because okay for me says you've got a handful of videos on there, which we tick the box for. What does it look like to make a good channel? Okay, so to me, a good channel is that you're posting weekly. You're posting about stuff that falls into one of 3 categories: either stuff that's internal, you know, problems, that sort of like, you know, they're not getting their prescriptions correctly, they don't know how to book an appointment, they don't know who to book an appointment with. So these sort of like low-level gripes that the patient has, that the staff has, like, can we do something to ease that up? So that's step 1. Step 2 is sort of reflecting of the time of year. So we're filming this, we're coming up to summer, so think about like hay fever and travel insurance and those sort of like, I'm going on holiday, what do I need? You know, those sort of like seasonal bits that are sort of going on. And then actually the third bit that I think is where we could really make some progress is talking about health promotion. So not specifically seasonal, but like, you know, what is diabetes, explaining all about that stuff that you just do not have time in the 10-minute consultation to do it. There's been a load of stuff about, you know, people getting Manjaro privately, but actually, you know, and the side effects of not exercising, taking multivitamin. If you're on HRT or contraception, you need to be careful because
tons of topics.
So many bits.
Literally. Yeah. So you're gonna take your list of topics.
Yep.
And try and do a bit more filming.
And then
is that right?
Absolutely.
And try and see if you can and really just ramp up and see what the effect on your practice patients population and actually what happens to your practice in terms of what are the benefits to your practice by doing this. You're going to measure this, right?
Absolutely.
You're going to tell us.
Yeah, because, at the moment we're sort of sat at, we've got just over 60, you could take the initial, what the channel looks like, a very quick and easy snapshot. So we've got about 60 or so subscribers. We've got 153 watch time hours. So it's relatively poor from that aspect. Yeah. But very easy one. But to be honest, as a business support account, that's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in, if I did a statin video and said, here's all about statins, do you want one? Actually, are patients happy enough with that? Yes or no? And I would bet, not all of them, but actually there will be a cohort of patients who will say, I've watched your video, Dave. You explained it really well. I'm happy to take it. Thank you very much. I don't need a doctor's appointment or a nurse appointment. So I've now saved the practice time. And there'll be a cohort who will say, I don't want it, but actually, instead of it being a throwaway 2-minute conversation of, do you want a statin? No, and they walk out the door. It's, I don't want it, but I'm more informed, which is actually
I'm excited to hear how this works.
It's huge win.
Because if you can show how this is benefiting your practice and your patients, this is massive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think where this is the step we need to go, there are a load of doctors on YouTube, social media, who are doing individualized accounts and they're doing a phenomenal job. And I'm like, that is great. Why can't we make practice accounts? And it ties in with the government wanting to, GPs to be the lead in terms of health promotion. Fine. This is one way of doing it. 2, bring back your family doctor. Well, how do you see your family doctor? As you quite rightly say, if you've seen them on camera. So it's not just, I don't want me on the channel or just me. I want my whole team. Yeah. And they're slowly coming around to the idea. Okay. They're slowly coming around to... But
you've got to start the yardstick. That's
absolutely. But the benefit as well, because we've started it, is that... for example, we had a vaccination video on RSV, and my practice manager turned around and said, it would be great to have a video about this because we're getting a lot of phone calls about it. And then in her next breath, she says, but you don't give vaccinations, Dave. The nurse does. And I want her on the video.
Brilliant.
And she did. And I was like, win. Yes. Right. Gemma, you sit down. We did a script together back and forth. I'll edit it. Done. So... yes, I think it's sort of... So what we're going to... I think the thing that... It's a bit of an experiment. So I think at the moment...
It's a good experiment.
Good experiment. So, we've got a quote from Kaylee with what does 6 months look like in terms of creating a video a week. I'm going to take that to the partners and say, can we do this? And actually, I think because we've got the successes and we've got some documented successes of and we've already got some other video ideas in the pipeline, but I'm stuck because it takes so long to edit. But actually now I've solved that problem. And then see what happens. And
I can't wait to hear about it, Dave. I'm genuinely very excited to hear about this because I think if you can come back and tell us how this works, which videos work, what benefits there are to your patients, what feedback you get, because I'm sure you'll get some feedback on your Google reviews or just seeing this video by Dr. Hindmarsh. I'm sure that there will be something that you can tell us, and it'll be fascinating to see what happens. So keep up, keep going, and let us know how it goes.
I will do. Very excited.